Alright, grade 7s. Today we're going to be making this house scene over here. We're going to first make the house and then we're going to make the tree. So let's get started with this. Let's head over to tinkercad.com to our dashboard, make sure that we're signed in, and then let's click create new design. Give it a second to load. Remember to sign in with your Google account if you need to sign into Tinkercad again. Alright, so here we are in a fresh work plane. Now, first thing I want to show you is that if we zoom all the way in, we can see very clearly that there's a center point on this work plane. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to work as in the center of this work plane as we possibly can. So let's get a good look at where that center point is, and let's bring in a box and let's just put it right dead center in our work plane. And there we go. Excellent. Now we've got a nice center that we can work from. So now the next thing I want you to do, I don't want you to change the height of this object. We're going to be nice and zoomed in. And what we're going to do is we're going to play with the dimensions, and we're going to scale the object so that the dimensions are 45 on the length and 30 on the width. So remember, if you look, if I grab one of these little white squares at the base of the object, I can change the scale of the object. And if you look, those numbers change as I scale the object. And you can see there, I think if we move it a little bit more this way, there we go, we've got 30, but we're still not quite right on 45. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab one of these little black boxes here on the side that I want to move and extend out, and you see it just extends that one side, so I can get that, there we go, to 45. Remember, if you're struggling to get it, try zooming in closer to the object so that you can get a nice good look at it, and try playing around with the angle that you're looking at by either using right click and holding and dragging, or holding control and then clicking and dragging to look around the object. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to cut out the inside of the square so that we're left with 4 walls. And then once we have 4 walls, what we're going to do is we're going to cut out space for the door, and then we're going to cut out space for the window. So the way that we do this is using this whole object over here. So you see on the right hand side of the screen there's a box object, but then there's also this gray box object. So let's just click and drag that gray box onto our form just by clicking and dragging. Why is it not? There we go. Clicking and dragging onto our form, and then just putting it anywhere. And you'll see it's kind of grayed out like that. It's transparent and it's grayed out. And what this is if we combine it with another object, it will make a hole in any objects that it intersects with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try get it nice and close into the corner, and you can see there it is overlapping with the corner. And if I just move it a little bit, you'll see, oh, I grabbed the wrong one there. Just try and make sure you grab the right object. And then you see if I, oh, again, wrong one. And try again. You see if I grab that object and I move it, you can see that I've only got a 1x1 wall over there, and that's what I want. I want you to try and have just a 1x1 wall, and I want you to try have it all the way around. And a good technique for that is to put it into one corner first and then grab the other corner. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Grab the other corner and then move it into the right place, and you'll be able to see when it's the right size, because you'll know it's going to be 43 by 28, which is of course our 45 length minus 2, 1 for each wall, as well as our 30 width minus 2, 1 for each wall. So that makes sense. So then now that we've got those two objects overlapping, we're going to click and drag off both objects. We're going to click off the objects and make sure that we're not clicking on an object, and we're going to click and drag over both of those objects so that they're both selected. Then I want you to find this shape over here that kind of looks like a square and a circle combined. That's the group icon. We're going to click that icon over there, and you see, there we go, it cuts out a center into our house. And there we go, now we've got 4 walls. So we now need to make a door and a window. So we're going to do that the exact same way. We're going to bring in the box, okay, and we'll just put it more or less where we want the door, and then we'll fix the dimensions so that the width of the door is kind of more door shaped. I think that's good. Now, don't worry about adjusting it so that it's perfect with the wall. If you try and get it like this so that it's perfect with the wall, sometimes it doesn't work so well. So what we're going to cut all of the way through the wall. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to make sure that our the edges of where we want to cut out kind of go through the object just a little bit more on either side, just to make sure that it gets a clean cut through. So now that the width of our door is correct, let's try bring down the height of this door so that it's, there we go. I think that's more appropriate, because you know all doors have a threshold, they don't go all the way to the top. So we're going to make sure it's cut out nice and neat like that, and then we're going to select both objects and then click the group button, and there we go, it cuts out our door for us. So now let's do a window as well. Let's bring in a box. Let's bring in a box here, and I think that's already a pretty good window size. I think I'm not even going to change the dimensions, but I am going to bring the height down, because remember, we always first make it the shape that we want it to be, and then we raise it into place. And then if it's not right after that point, then when we know it's more or less in the right place, we can then play with it a little bit and make it more perfect so that it looks just a little bit better. And there we go. I think I'm happy. No, that's a little high. I'm going to bring it down one. There we go, and I think I'm happy with that. I like how that looks. So now I'll select both those whole objects and my house. I'm going to cut them out, and there we go. Now I've got a window and a door for our house. So this is looking good, but now our house needs something important. It's going to need a roof. So let's scroll down our basic shapes library over here, and let's take out the appropriately named roof shape. And let's just bring it into our world. So now what we're going to do, watch closely, is I don't want to have my roof with the triangle side on the length side, because that's going to look weird. How I want it to look is I want the triangle side on the width side. So we're going to just rotate this object. And now watch carefully. I've got this trick for you. If you need to rotate an object, make sure that you keep it on the circle as you rotate it to make sure that it doesn't fall off, because if it falls off, sometimes what happens is it stops rotating. But the other trick that I want to show you is that if you hold Shift and you rotate this object, if you just click on the rotator and hold it, and then hold Shift and try and drag it around the circle, you'll see that you can rotate it in perfect 45-degree angles, and it snaps really nicely to that rotation. So let's just rotate it 90 degrees using Shift, and then release both the click and Shift together, and then there we go, we've rotated our object. And now let's use that technique that I showed you last week, where we first get it into the right position, and I guess I showed you today when we cut out the hole. We're going to first get it into the right position on this side. Now I'm going to want a little bit of overhang with my roof, so you see I've kind of just put it just one outside of my wall so that it's perfect in one corner, and then I'm going to grab it on the other corner and drag it into place so that it's perfect. And if you don't get it the first time, don't worry about it. Remember that you can adjust as you need to with these black squares, and if you want it perfectly overlapping with your walls, then that's perfect, but I'm just going to have it overlapping just one by one to make it look nice and neat. And there we go. So now we know it's in the right place, so all we have to do is just select the object and use this black arrow to move it up into place, and you do it slowly, and there we go. That's perfect. We can look from the sides, and yeah, that's looking good. That's looking good. I think I will change the color though. I'm going to make it more of maybe a dark orange. No, maybe this orange color, and then I'll make the walls something like maybe a teal blue. There we go. I like how that looks. Maybe a different roof color. Yeah, maybe just a softer green. I think I like that. Or maybe that is the exact same color green. Okay, I think it is, but I think that green looks good with blue. Okay, so enough of that. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on a pine tree. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move over here, and we're going to drag our view so that it's looking over here. So right now, how we've been working so far is we've always had our view in one center point. We've kind of moved around that center point, but now what we're going to do is we're going to change that center point by holding Control and Shift and then clicking and dragging so that our screen moves over, so that we're looking more over here on the side, somewhere where we can build a tree. And I think that's looking good. So now the next thing that we're going to do, well, the first thing that we're going to do with building a tree is we're going to bring in the tree trunk. So let's bring in a cylinder now, and let's just put it somewhere in our world, somewhere where we can get a good look at it. I think that's good. Maybe I can even drag over a little bit. If I don't feel like it's good and centered, then I can just drag over a little bit and get a good look at this object. Great. So now, remember shift from earlier when we wanted to rotate an object perfectly 45 degrees? Well, shift works as well if you're scaling the object. If I hold shift and I click and drag the object, you see how it keeps the scale of the object perfectly. And what I can use that for is, instead of getting an oval shaped tree like this, I can just hold shift and make sure that I get a perfect circle trunk, which I would like to see. And let's try go for an even number here. I think maybe 6 by 6 or 4 by 4. I think today I'm going to go for a 4 by 4, and I'll zoom in and try and bring it more into place over here. So now that I've got this over here, I'm just going to raise the height of it a little bit. Let's maybe make it maybe 10, maybe between 10 and 15 is a good height, I would say. You can see that height on the screen. I'll make mine 12. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in, now remember we're making a pine tree, so the cone's going to make a good shape for the pine tree. So let's bring that into place. And something I want to show you is, if you don't get it perfectly on the first try, what you can do is you can use the arrow keys to move it more into place if you want it more in place. I think we don't really see how it looks here. Maybe let me just bring this down a little bit. And we can move it over, and there we go. Now we can see it's more or less center, and that's where we want it. So if it's like this, we don't want it to have it like that. We want it to be in the right place. So let's just bring it over with the arrow keys like that. Okay, nice. So now that it's more or less in the right place, let's bring it up. Well, it's perfectly in the right place for me. Let's bring it up so that we have the first tier of our pine tree. Sorry, our pine tree. Yeah, pine tree. And let's then change the color of it so that it's more pine colored. Nice. Okay, now something I want to show you here with this is that there's these sliders over here. Normally where we change the color, you see you can click on this drop down arrow to see this shape, these sliders over here that control these properties of the shape that we've got selected. And you can see these for any shape that you select, or almost any shape that you select have these properties, except maybe some of these other shapes, but that's okay. So you see, if we change the top radius, you see we can make our tree into more of like a baobab tree. Or if we change the base radius, we can make it just a little bit wider. And yeah, maybe let's have it a little bit wider. And the height as well, we can change. We can make it a little taller, but I think I'm going to leave it nice and short. And the sides, don't worry about the sides for now. Basically, you can have it as a, you can just make it more jagged and more polygon like, but I think I'm gonna leave it where it was, maybe at about 30 sides, so that it's nice and circular. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one more new thing today, and that's the duplicate function. So if you look next to the trash icon over here, there's this duplicate icon, and if I click this over here and I just click duplicate while I have something selected, you see, once I move the object that I've duplicated, it creates a copy of it, and then the original stays in place and the copy moves. So you can see I can then make the second tier to my pine tree, and maybe I'll change the base radius and I'll make it just a little bit tighter. And I think that looks good. And you know what I'll do is I'll bring in another tier by duplicating again, one more tree. And there we go. I'll bring that down a little bit because it's, the tree kind of becomes short as it goes, or small as it goes up. And I'll change the base radius to be a little thinner than the one below it, and maybe I'll just increase the height as well. Oh no, not that height slider. I'll just increase the actual height a little bit. Remember, take your time with it, be careful with it, and then maybe just bring down the height. Yeah, I think that looks good. I think that looks like a really good tree. Maybe I'll bring down this center one just a little bit more. Yeah, I think that looks good. I like the way that looks. I think that looks nice and pine tree-like. So there we go. So that's the tree done. Maybe I'll fidget with it a little bit more and make it so. There we go. I think I like that a little bit more. So something I'm going to show you quickly is something else I want to show you, or just a few more things I want to show you before I end, is if you ever make a mistake like this and you accidentally change the roof, over here, you'll see that there's a little back arrow over here that undoes what you just did. So if you click that, you'll see it undoes your most recent action. So if you ever make a mistake and you want to undo it, just click on the undo. And if you ever undo something accidentally too much, you can just click redo, and it will redo the action that you just undid. So another great use of this as well is if you ever need to delete something, either click delete on the keyboard, or you can click this trash can icon over here to delete the object, and then it deletes it. Of course, you can undo that and you can redo that. So now I think that's that's what I wanted to do in this assignment today, or in this Tinkercad project today, is just to build this house with these cutouts and then this tree with the duplicate function. But some other things that you can feel free to do once you're done, if you want to jazz up your property, is you can feel free to add more to your scene. Some ideas that you could do is you could add a lawn, you could add your name to your property, or you could add a house number to your property. You could also use the scribble tool to add a signature to your property, or maybe you could just do something like add a chimney or add a garage or something like that, or maybe a pathway, or just use your imagination. What do you want to add to your property? And I'd like you to try and do that if you can. And all right, I think that's it for today, grade 7s. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you again in the next lesson. Oh, and one more thing, grade 7s. Don't forget to save by clicking on the Tinkercad logo up in the top left-hand corner. You just click that logo and then wait for it to save your work, and it will take you back to your dashboard.